powers must act together because if we're not at the table, we're on the menu.
Somewhere Europe has to grow out of the mindset that Europe's problems are the world's problems, but the world's problems are not Europe's problems.
चुन चुन करके हिसाब लेना ये मेरी फितरत है.
Why should it be a problem if I'm smart enough to have multiple options? You should be admiring me.
भारत झुकने वाला भी नहीं.
The rise of India will be determined by India. It will be determined by our strength, not by the mistakes of others.
The old order is not coming back. We shouldn't mourn it. Nostalgia is not a strategy.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. And today's video is very interesting, that why the new world order has only 4 powers. And when I was thinking about this whole thing, then I went back in a little bit of time, to the World Economic Forum meeting where Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney, he said that the old world order is dead. Now, whether people want to admit it or not, but he may be, I think, describing one of the biggest geopolitical shifts of our time. And for many years, see, the global hierarchy basically was like a closed club, which was mainly dominated by the West. They made their own rules and then expected the whole entire world to follow it. But now, as we progress into the 21st century, and we are halfway to the middle of the century, like one quarter of this century we have already covered. So the image of unquestioned European leadership has faced a very hard reality. Because see, in 20th century, nobody questioned European Union as such, Europe. And that was, I think mostly it was because of it was all self-proclaimed. Because if you are the only one in the race, then you are going to win. But real winner is actually found, or say real winner is the one who actually competes, right? When you don't have anybody around you, then yeah, you can be all you want to be. And that was the situation in the 20th century and in the beginning of the 21st century too. So now the European Union, especially after COVID, the European Union has faced a very hard reality of what? Economics, industrial power, and the sovereign will to do anything. As far as economy is concerned, most of the European countries, their GDP is stagnant or in negative and is not doing anything. There is a population collapse. The military age population is way below the point of no return, or what do they call it? The term is, I think, the reversible number. There is one reversible number where the population collapse can be reversed. Then comes the industrial power. The industrial power, they killed their industrial power because of whatever. I'll talk about all that as we move along in the video, okay? So it's safe to say that the era of the so-called regulatory superpower is over. A whole entire pool or an entire group that actually orchestrated the first industrial revolution, second industrial revolution, then third industrial revolution. All that is fading. And I'm not saying that, okay? This is not me starting a video saying that, oh, yeah, I hate Europe. Or no, none of that. It's not me saying it. And besides that, I don't have any hate on them. I'm just presenting you my analysis here, okay? So, and I'm not saying that this is increasingly the voices of Europe, that these are the voices within the Europe itself that are beginning to acknowledge this reality, okay? So what is replacing it is something much larger. the return of civilizational great powers. If you want to know more about this whole entire thing, then go check out my book, actually, my book, which is titled Emerging World Order 2025. It's on Amazon Kindle, and you can also buy it on paperback too from Amazon. Okay. So, coming back to the topic, see, because power is no longer measured by the size of the rule book, like, in the unipolar world, there was an unsaid rule that was created. Unsaid rule book was there that was called the rule based international order. Now, in that rule based international order, basically, they were saying that the gist of the rule based international order was that, hey, follow or obey what I'm saying, or else. That's basically what it was. Else had the consequences. Now, all that rule book is gone. Okay. And so, world is not being run by the legacy of empires that no longer exist. Power is measured by resilience, by the nation's ability to withstand pressure, absorb shocks, and preserve its strategic autonomy. And a true pole is not simply a powerful country. A true pole is a civilization state that cannot be coerced into strategic decisions it does not want to make. That's the actual definition of a true great power. And we are here at the right now at the world, actually, not we. I mean, world is at a civilizational crossroads where we have four titans capable of shaping the direction of the human history. So, guys, let's get going. Let's get started. We are going to talk about why the world order has only four powers, and India holds the key to it. So, if you like this kind of video, if you like the global order shift, you want to know more about all that, and please do follow my channel. Please like and subscribe, and go check out my book. So, let's talk about what exactly makes a pole. Okay. What exactly makes a pole? Everyone talks about hold on a second, there you go. Yeah, everyone talks about the multipolar world and this and that. Let me share my screen, actually, then you're gonna know. Okay, so everyone says multipolar world. Nobody can tell you how many poles. I mean, everyone says the multipolar world. All right, fair enough. So what are we talking about? How many poles are we talking about? 4 poles, 6 poles, 3 poles, 1.5 pole? What is it? Meaning that every time there was a number, exact number, then there were exactly, world knew that what are those exact powers? Who are those powers? Like in the bipolar world after the World War II. Everyone knew that there was one Soviet Union and another one was United States, right? Then, after the collapse of Soviet Union, there was only one power that had the potential or the capability to coerce countries into things. Okay, and so the numbers, normally what happens is that you have to, that means, establish some sort of test or some sort of definition as to what exactly constitutes a great power, right? You just cannot go and blindly say that, oh, I'm a great power, yay, I'm a great power. It's like Pakistan saying that they're a great power. Why? Because somehow they managed to build a nuclear bomb. Or North Korea says that we are a great power because we are itching to hit the red button. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to be responsible enough. At the same time, you have to be patient enough, and at the same time you have to know when to hit hard, and it had to be proportional too. You just cannot go and nuke a country. Why? Because few illegals entered from that country into your country. You see where I'm going with this? So now, so the question really is, what exactly is the criteria? The criteria is there is only one test. That's it. Okay, and that test is that a pole is a power. Okay, a pole is a power that cannot be coerced into a strategic decision it does not want to make. Meaning that a pole is a power that maintains its strategic autonomy at any cost. Okay, it's now let's look at this. It's not GDP. Italy's GDP is bigger than Russia's GDP, but Russia is a pole. Italy is not. Right? You may say these things, right? People may say these things that okay, certain countries in Europe have bigger GDP than Russia, but Russia is a pole. Why not them? Why not Italy? Right? It's simply because you can coerce Italy into doing things. US has been doing this thing for a very long time to whole entire Europe. But can United States coerce Russia into doing something? Yeah, I mean Russians, because the Russians may see some sort of benefit into something, then they may go ahead and do it. That's fine. And then American media may actually project it in a different way. The propaganda, the propaganda machine may actually make it look like the Russians were coerced into something. But look at the Russia-Ukraine war. What's happening there? President Trump said that one phone call and Putin is gonna come begging me to stop this and that. But what happened here? Right? So GDP is not the I would say a major factor in this thing. Okay, then comes the population. So population. Now population is also not the factor. Why is that? Because if that was the case, then Pakistan has a population of 240 million people. Pakistan is nowhere near being a pole, forget the rest. Right? Then there are lots of countries that have bigger population than Pakistan too, but they're not pole either. Then comes the alliances. So what? So NATO alliance. So what? There is a NATO military alliance. So what we're supposed to think that is a criteria for being a pole? No, not alliances is also not a criteria. NATO has 32 members, and only one of them actually is a pole. Alliance is simply that whole bunch of countries who don't have the balls, so they look up to their big daddy to make the call for them. That's what alliance simply means. This is why, if you look into it, then United States actually tries to use the word ally, ally, ally all the time, even though they have a bilateral relationship with India. Okay, they have bilateral relationship with India. They have partnership with India, and India has made this thing very clear. But still, some of these people from State Department like Marco Rubio and then there is media. Their media also, all these Twitterati, you go on X and all that, you will see them, ally and a partner. No, either you are an ally or a partner. It cannot be both. Partner means the equal status. Ally means you're somebody's bitch. So the question is that which one is that? You cannot be a bitch and a partner at the same time. Right? So this is what I'm talking about. The whole propaganda machine that works, but that does not mean that that Russia is not a pole. Right? So then comes the trade volume. So what? Trade volume, just because countries have trade volume, so because of that they can be called a pole? No, I mean forget Vietnam. Even I have added Vietnam example here. Vietnam trade with everyone. It still has a node, not a pole. Look at Japan. Japan used to be the third or fourth largest economy for a long time. What happened? Is Japan a pole? Can you say this thing with confidence that Japan is a pole? Why not? Because Japan has American military base over there. That one criteria in itself puts Japan out of the scene of this whole great power game. Okay, so some of these things that may look like a criteria that I mentioned here, they are not the criteria. Okay, then comes to be a pole. Then what exactly is the thing that you have to look into, right? So the framework is that, let me actually share my screen again. So to be a pole, you must clear all three vectors of coercion. Three vectors that I have compiled are military, economic, and strategic. Okay. So for military, you have to have nuclear deterrence or equivalent. No one can threaten your existence. And once this whole nuclear deterrence and the military aspect is established, then military coercion is off the table permanently. For example, I talked about nuclear deterrence here, right? So, nuclear deterrence. Pakistan has nuclear deterrence, or so they think. They thought that because they have nuclear weapons, so they can go and use the proxy against India all the time, anytime. But in Op Sindhu, what India did, India just bombed the crap out of them. And India declared its new doctrine that any proxy war will be considered a war, whether you like it or not. But if you will use the proxy, it will be considered a war, and it's a serious business. So you have to understand that thing that yeah, just because you have nuclear weapon doesn't mean jack. All right, you have to have the military power to back all that and to maintain that deterrence. Deterrence doesn't mean that you just make a nuclear weapon somewhere and you're good. Otherwise, if that was the case, then all the countries like Niger and Namibia and all that, they would be the military powers. They have the uranium mines, right? So that doesn't happen. So next point is for this whole three vector coercion is the economic. The economy should be too large or too integrated to sanction. I mean, your economy should be so resilient and so robust that no country can even think of sanctioning you or putting tariffs on you or making any kinds of economic threat that we're going to do this to you. See what I said earlier, the criteria for a pole by definition is a country that has the capability to maintain its strategic autonomy at any cost, the one that does not bend to any external pressure. And if you look into it, what is that? Military, economic, and strategic. Only three situations are where you can lose your strategic autonomy. Everything else falls under these three vectors. So, economic wise, if you look into it, then for example, let's say Russia, sanctions were applied on Russia. What happened? Russian said, uh, Russians started to, they immediately switched their strategy. What they did from Europe to South Asia and Asia, Central Asia, all that. They were debarred from dollar. They are sanctioned. They couldn't use dollar. Guess what? They started to trade in national currencies. The plan was to isolate them. Guess what? They organized the BRICS summit in there, and every power that was there, it showed up over there. In fact, some of the NATO countries like Turkey showed up too, just to show the support. So that's why Russians are a pole, and we will talk about all that more. Okay. Now then, third is the strategic. Strategic, as in no external veto on your foreign policy. So you set your own agenda. No outside power can block your core decisions, trade partners, military posture, alliances, and all that. Right? Now, in this whole thing, like for example, economic, if we go back to economic for 2 seconds, okay? For economic, can any country go and put sanctions on India? I would say try it. Try it. I mean, President Trump couldn't even put tariff on India. Forget the rest. He couldn't put the tariff. He talked all that blah blah blah, all that big talk, but result was nothing. Then strategic veto foreign policy wise. India was asked that, hey, go and uh, don't buy Russian oil. India said that that's our decision and our decision only. We don't care about you doing. So point is that I'm just giving you some of these examples as to how the vectors of coercion have been established. Okay. So let's talk more about each and every pole now. Okay. Now let's talk about the first great power. And first great power is not, it's pretty obvious actually, and that is United States. Why United States actually passes this test that I am putting here. So if you look into it, then military wise, United States, do I have to even talk about it? Right? 11 carrier strike of the only power projecting force across all theaters simultaneously. So America's military power is unquestioned. Yeah, does America have enough military age population to actually uh, handle this much hardware? I seriously doubt that. Okay, I seriously doubt that. You may have all kinds of things on paper, and yeah, maybe, but do you have the military age population to handle that? This is why. This is why it's not a superpower anymore, because of the complete population collapse, complete societal collapse. Look at all kinds of things that were happening in 2024. America came down from the superpower status to great power is because of these reasons. The reasons, that very reasons that make a country stronger, those reasons are gone. The reasons like the social integrity, the family values, the military age population and all that, these things matter. Then you have your manufacturing and all that. And once all that is gone, then good luck. I mean, the whole entire economic tornado that is there, it has shifted towards India and Asia for a reason, simply because of their military age population. Yeah, I mean, I will give you the example. India has 600 million young people that are below 35. 600 million. That is twice the population of the entire United States. Okay? That's the and total population of the entire Western Hemisphere, I believe, is 980 million. I'm just giving you the perspective. Okay. Now go back to it. Economy wise, dollar is the coercion system. We all know that, and it doesn't say it doesn't receive any kind of sanctions. It basically issues them. We all know that, and cutting off the dollar access is the weapon. So they have the economic leverage and all that. Strategic, no power, of course, can force a US policy reversal, but actually no. And this is another thing too. The no power can actually force a policy reversal. It exercises a strategic autonomy by design, because they had that leverage. They became the superpower when nobody else was around. This is why I said earlier in the beginning that when you don't have anyone running against you, then yeah, it's all good to brag about things and everything, that yeah, how much of a superpower you are. But the real test comes when actually you have the competition, right? So when you are running alone, then you are the winner. You are of course going to be the winner when you are running alone, right? So anyway, but nonetheless, it's not a superpower, it's a great power. That's why, because of lots of other factors. And economy wise, we all know $29 trillion and this and that, right? And dollar still makes up for the 57% of the global foreign exchange reserve and this and that. And it's not going down anytime soon either. If you think that, anyone who thinks that dollar will be devalued, I mean, dollar is being devalued, but de-dollarization part is something I'm not seeing the numbers where I can say that yeah, world is de-dollarizing. World is not de-dollarizing. Dollar itself is devaluing. Okay. Why? Because now countries are not actually putting the money back into the US securities, US treasuries, and all that as much as they used to. Okay. So, whatever you see right now in the US stock market that used to be, that is at least $60 trillion, it's all because of the old investment that was there. Okay. Lots and lots of old investment that has been sitting there. Recent, I doubt it. Okay. But I will have to check the latest number. But, anyways, so first poll is the United States, which is a great power. It has degraded from the superpower status to great power status. And it's still going downhill, but I think that it will still be a great power. Why? Because there is no other middle power to challenge it. Okay, until that happens, US is going to be a great power, one of the poles. All right. Now let's talk about the second pole. Second pole is China. Okay, let me share my screen. Second pole is China. China is something we all know. China, and China. China built its own dependency architecture, so others need it more than it needs them. 140 plus BRI countries logged into Chinese infrastructure. This is the data I'm giving you, okay? Then we have $18 trillion plus GDP, too large for any effective sanctions. It's not just the GDP as such, okay? It's because of the way Chinese economy is entangled with American economy. That's why even if Chinese want to de-dollarize, so-called de-dollarize their economy, they won't be able to. Even though Chinese talk about de-dollarization a lot when they are with Russia. Other than that, their trade volume is $600 billion a year just with the United States. $600 billion. Right? See, and this is why I say that BRICS countries, when they talk about all these things, then it's nothing but the irony of this whole thing. That they talk about it, but at the same time, they're not able to do anything. Okay. So for China, why China is a great power and China is one of the poles? Our three criteria that I have put in: military, economic, and strategic. Military, full nuclear arsenal plus second strike capability. Military coercion is structurally impossible for China with China. I mean, China's military is pretty powerful. Navy is bigger than I would say US Navy, and Chinese Air Force is bigger than US Air Force. Okay, and Chinese Army is bigger than US Army in every aspect. And not to mention, all this is there backed by a top notch manufacturing capacity, meaning that the amount of time US takes to make one warship, China makes 10 warships in that time. 10. That's how fast China can make. So if China and US go on at war, in a conventional war, Chinese are simply going to do the war of attrition. And easy peasy, they're going to defeat United States. China won't be able to capture US. Actually, US will simply succumb to its economic collapse. Simply because they won't be able to keep up with the rapid pace of manufacturing the way Chinese do. The cheap manufacturing. Okay. And economy wise, we already talked about it. Russian sanctions were the test case. Chinese economy is very resilient. And China is 10 times harder to isolate. Nobody will even try. I mean, these are the ground realities. I mean, do I have to really explain it? See, President Trump may be saying that China's economy is hurting, China is going down, and this and that and all that. If that is the case, then what were you doing in China just a few days ago? Since when the president of the United States started to go to China to make a deal? I mean, you go to a country to make a deal because you are weak. You don't go to a country to make a deal because you are strong. That's not called making a deal from the point of strength. I mean, if I'm strong, why would I go to some other country to beg them, hey, man, let's fix this? You get the picture? And that's why I'm saying Chinese. Okay, China is another very obvious great power, and China has a civilizational power too. And historically, go look into it. China has a great history. China has a, even historically, Chinese have been a great military power all over, and that's that. Strategically, China, you cannot coerce China into doing not doing something. I mean, everyone has tried. Look at South China Sea, those islands that China was making over there, where Chinese have made their air bases and all that. I mean, Americans tried their best to really intervene over there. Oh, don't do it. Don't. Chinese were like, we are going to do it. And so much so, coercing. I mean, talk about coercing strategic autonomy. Chinese are so hell bent on the Taiwan case that they're not gonna let it go. That US had to drop Taiwan. US had to drop Taiwan out of their own grouping. Grouping, what grouping? Park Silica, the very grouping that says the semiconductor grouping, right? And they dropped Taiwan out of it. Taiwan is not in it. So who is coercing who? I mean, the line is very blurry at this point. Okay, but China, it's definitely not Chinese who are getting coerced into things. Okay, let's talk about the third great power. The fourth is India. And I think that India is, in true sense, a purest pole. And I'll tell you why I'm saying this. Okay, let me share my slide real quick. Okay, see, the only power all three poles court simultaneously. Americans want to have trade deals with India, even though the president keeps blabbering all kinds of bullshit. But they still, whoa, $500 billion trade, $500 billion trade. They keep saying it. So they don't want to lose. Then Russians already are saying, yeah, we will give India more energy if India needs it. Look at Chinese. They started all the things in 2020, Doklam and this and that. But eventually, Xi Jinping showed up, yeah, hey man, let's shake hands. We cannot do it without you. Point being that no one can afford to lose India. Okay? That's the only great power whose overall global influence is expanding rather than plateauing in 2026. That's another thing. That India's global influence is growing by the day. I mean, how many other powers are there where you go and meet other countries and those countries they simply say, "Oh, you are a great power, we are not," and this and that. They just simply admit it in front of you. This happens when you go watch India all the time. So, and India is the only power whose influence is growing by the day. It's not coming down. Whereas other great powers, their influence is coming down. And at some point, it's going to intersect. And India's going to go up and others will they will plateau at some point when they come down. But that's how it is. Now let's look into our criteria. Military criteria. India is a nuclear armed country, fourth strongest military in the world. Okay. And we have seen this thing that no power can threaten India's existence. So coercion is off the table. The military coercion is off the table. Okay. India is not Iran. India is not China. India is not Russia. And India is not Iraq or some random country that you will just go and, okay, we are going to do this. So, and if these countries, if US or any other country were capable to do it, they would have done it. They tried it. They tried in 1971 war. It was 3v2 actually. US, UK and Pakistan. They were attacking India and it was just India and Soviet Union. US and UK have 7th Fleet and all that. They turned around, they left the battlefield immediately. Kissinger was crying like a little sucker. So that's the real power right there. Okay. And not to mention, I'm not even going into the World War II braveries and all that. Okay, that's a different discussion. But here, Comes the economic $3.5 trillion economy. I'm just going with the little bit of the rupee hurting situation, when the rupee was devalued because of the Iran war and all that. And right now, and it is projected to be $7 trillion economy by 2029. Can any country sanction India? I mean, if can US sanction India? Try it. All I can say is just try it. Chances are that most of these US companies, they will simply leave US market, and they will set up their headquarters in India actually at that point. If US tried to sanction India, that's the reality of it. I'll give you simple number just so that you can actually get the estimation that how bad the situation is when it comes to economic coercion to India, at least. That YouTube has the largest user base, that's in India, that is 500 million plus. Okay, and the second largest user base is in US, which is around 250 million. Imagine the gap right there. You see that? Now imagine if India blocks YouTube from its market, that hey, bye bye, we don't need you. What do you think is gonna happen? YouTube will shut down. That's what will happen. YouTube will shut down. Look at X. Go look at the X numbers too. Look at Facebook. Entire Facebook right now is dependent on Indian market. You remove if India blocks Facebook, Facebook will be dead overnight. And this is not me exaggerating it. I'm not even exaggerating any of this thing. Go look at the numbers. Sheer numbers will tell you that that's what's exactly what's going to happen. Chat GPT and all that. Largest user base of Chat GPT is in India. Same thing for Claude. So putting economic coercion, meaning that it will be that country's economic demise, not India's economic demise, actually. Then let's talk about the third aspect of it, the strategic autonomy. 75 plus years of independence with zero military alliances. In fact, India did not let anybody break its strategic autonomy when British left, just post-colonial era of India. India never listened anyway. I mean, they did what they wanted to do. They did what they felt right. And even during the Cold War era, India did not do yes, it may see if it was good for India or not, that's a different story. But did they compromise their strategic autonomy? No, they did not, and nobody could even coerce them into it. Okay. Now another example is that look at this, that they buy from Russia, they buy from US, they buy from Israel, they buy from France. And all this happens, and nobody actually says that, yeah, please don't do that. The US has tried it, but no, it doesn't happen. India keeps on buying Russian oil. India keeps on buying whatever US tech is there, Israelis, France, name it. And no one stops it. Then the last one is the magnet test. US, China, Russia, they all court India actively, right? They all have one fear. The fear is fear of losing India. Why? Because the way India is. It has the largest military age population. It has the largest tech backbone. The beauty of India is that if India has the enough energy supply, which India gets from Russia, then India can produce and India can consume everything within itself. India really doesn't have a major need to export. But India has to export because India still imports its energies. So to meet certain demands and certain requirements, if push comes to shove, India can manage lots of things, which will surprise lots and lots of countries. And because of all these things, India is also a civilizational power. Okay, civilizational great power. Back in the day, when there were poles, four poles used to be the Roman Empire, the Chinese Empire, then Indian Empire, and then African Empire. Indian Empire was all the way to Afghanistan and all that on the western side, and on the eastern side it used to be Indonesia, Thailand, all that you was part of Indian Empire. And uh, Indians maintained during the Chandragupta Maurya era, it was like 5.5 million square kilometers. Chinese Han Empire actually maintained 6 million square kilometers, and Roman Empire was at 5 million square kilometers. And Romans and all the Western countries, they brag about how Roman Empire won the world. So yeah, so that's not the case. India is a civilizational power. This is why in the beginning I said that uh, this is gonna be, there is a rise of civilizational powers. The two great civilizational great powers are rising again. And one of them is India, which is the purest pole. Why? Because uh, it's not just because it can resist, but because that everyone needs it too at the same time. US doesn't say that, oh, we don't want India. Yeah, they are our rivals. Which country says that? Nobody. Chinese want to trade in India. Chinese have been begging that please open your market, please open your market. Russians need it. Russians know that thing. So that is the purest pole. That your power, you don't even have to project your power, and everyone is ready to work with you. What else could it could be? Look at European Union. European Union was saying that, oh, the India free trade agreement with India is the mother of all deals. Mother of all deals. I think only Americans have been stupid enough to not sign the deal. But anyways, so that's the fourth power for you guys, okay? Now let's talk about why every other candidate fails the same test. Look at European Union. Do I have to even mention from the military front, European Union straight up fails. From strategic autonomy, they have been basically American puppet or George Soros puppet or somebody's puppet somewhere somehow. But they haven't made their own uh, sovereign policy and strategic policies, or not all by their own, in a very long time. Why? Because they were just simply American vassals. Japan, simple thing. Japan, right? Japan. Japan is heavily dependent on US military. United Kingdom. Your UK is nothing but a enhanced US instrument. It's not even a pole anymore. I mean, look at the US military. They don't have military anymore, and their country's capital is compromised. It's compromised by a Pakistani over there. Then you have Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is also a vassal state, if you ask me. I don't have to. I mean, they have been. It was a protected client state. Basically, American bases were there. Brazil. It's a regional power, I can say. Brazil has been a regional power, but I'm not gonna say that Brazil is a pole. Brazil is also vulnerable to lots of things. One of those things is the regime change and all that. So Brazil is not that resilient. If Brazil becomes resilient, then Brazil is a very big country, quite frankly. And but they will still need the population and all to get to that level. But they have shown certain resilience, but military power is still questionable. So that's why Brazil is not. It's a regional power, you can say regional state, give take, but not a great power. Turkey wishes that the Ottoman Empire will come back. Okay, Ottoman Shahenshah of Ottoman Empire, Erdogan, he is probably wishing in his dreams uh, that he will get to it, but that's why I said aspiring fool, basically, but structurally completely insufficient. Economy is just not there. It's a dead economy. I think when Trump was saying that India and Russia are dead economy, then I think he meant Turkey is a dead economy. He forgot to change the name. Then comes, uh, we have talked about all this right now. If you go into each candidate, European Union, many times they have been coerced. Japan, United Kingdom, we have. I've already told you what exactly their situation is, right? Then Saudi Arabia the same way, Brazil, Turkey the same way. Any other country, if you name, just let me know. But I think that this is why, if you notice, there are not 3, 6, or 8. There are only 4 great powers because these are the countries that fit that criteria. Any other country just is not capable enough to do anything, right? And and then another reason why India becomes a very pure power, the pure pole in the sense that every other pole wants them. And then look at the when India's Prime Minister Modi actually he visited just 5 nation tour. Then what happened? Denmark's Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, she said that we cannot say that India is a middle power. You are one of the biggest powers. That's what she was saying. She was like, okay, European Union is the middle power. We don't know if we are with the Netherlands. He signed the deal with Netherlands, 17 agreements, ASML, Tata. Then Sweden, he signed the deal with bilateral ties. Then Italy, special strategic partnership established with defense industrial roadmap and all that. European Union 40 billion investment commitment. Free trade agreement concluded. Security deal. So the European Union has just spent 6 months formally acknowledging the fourth pole. They just didn't use those exact words, but they said that thing. So all these things matter. And this is why we have 4 poles and we don't have any other pole. No fifth, no sixth. Lots of other countries have one thing, they don't have other thing. And the disparity in the military power after the fourth largest military is big, very huge. Then if you go into economics and strategic autonomy and all that, it's not there. Now, economic coercion factor is dependent on other social factors that I've said earlier, right? And those social factors are not, if those social factors are not there, like population and all that, the military age population, the infrastructure, the family value system, all that is not there, then yeah, of course, when society collapses, then you cannot build empire on a societal collapse, right? So that's what that is, guys. And I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Please do like and subscribe, and I will talk to you guys in another video. Take care.